All right, so I know today's topic is going to be highly debatable. The man who proposed to completely destroy existing buildings in Paris to carry out his plan. Thank God it didn't happen, because I think if that did ever happen, Paris would look very different and actually very sad. Hey guys, it is your girl Nat here. Welcome back to episode 2 of Floor Talks. Today I wanted to talk about a hot topic. That is the question of, do Starchitects actually destroy city skylines? You know, I was debating about this for as long as I've been an architecture student, because I saw architecture as a common person, I would say, before I even started studying architecture and understanding architecture. But also by creating my YouTube channel and talking with people with no architectural background, I understand there is a lot of tension between people who have a trained eye in architecture and people who inhabit our world, our built environment. And I think it's super important to point out before we get into today's debate, I guess. It's important to point out that the purpose and primary function of architecture is to accommodate for people, everyday people, to best live in our built environment. That is the goal of architecture. We as architects make a bunch of assumptions about how people interact with buildings and spaces and even circulate through buildings and spaces, but it is the architect's job to make sure that we are listening to communities. This is a perfect segue into today's debate. Do Starchitects destroy city skylines? All right, so I know today's topic is going to be highly debatable, but yeah, you know, if you just want to listen to me kind of ramble on for the next couple minutes, welcome. So Starchitects. What is a starchitect? Starchitect or star architect are architects that everyday people know, meaning that you don't have to go to an architectural history class to kind of recognize these names. I would classify Frank Gehry being a starchitect, Zaha Hadid being a starchitect, Le Corbusier being a starchitect. I think these are the three main starchitects people know. People know, and they either love them or they absolutely hate them. But all of these starchitects that I mentioned, they all have a very distinct architectural expression that they use. So Frank Gehry, I mean, you know, super organic, kind of weird. I always think of fabric when I look at his work, or we want to reference that Simpsons bit, crumpling up piece of paper all the time. That's Gehry. I've mentioned Gehry a bunch of times on the channel. I have a love-hate relationship with Gehry, that's for sure. Zaha Hadid, super organic forms. I think they are so beautiful. I really do admire her work, and also I have so much respect for her for breaking down boundaries for women everywhere. I digress. And of course, Le Corbusier, the man who proposed to completely destroy existing buildings in Paris to carry out his plan. Thank God it didn't happen, because I think if that did ever happen, Paris would look very different and actually very sad, in my opinion. Now, here is the thing. Starchitects get a bad rep. They really do, and whether you like their work or not, the thing that we have to remember here with all skyline adjustments, I'll say for lack of a better word, there is a client involved. There is a client involved in every single built project. Architects are poor. You know, like, we aren't going to build a 1,000,000 square foot building facility, but there's going to be a client that comes along and says, oh, you know, I really need some sort of building expression here. Can you design me something cool? Starchitects get a bad rep for even considering destroying an existing older city skyline, when in actuality it comes down, at least in my opinion, it comes down to the client. It is the client's needs, and we will always, as architects, put the client's needs ahead of probably everything else, just because they're the ones signing the paycheck. I know that sucks, but I think that's a harsh reality that every architecture student needs to know, and also everyday people needs to understand that. It's not necessarily the architect's sole responsibility. It's going to be the client that comes to them and says, oh, you know, we really need to revive this one area. What can you do for me? And of course, Gary's going to be like, I'm going to build you this really cool building. And as a result, when the area did revive itself financially, then they realize that this method kind of works. It has that distinct formal quality. You know, everyone can understand it's a Gary building. People hear about it all the time. You get a feature on on The Simpsons and bam, there you go. Common people understand you and your work. Gary has so many critics. He has so many critics out there. Oh my God, it's unbelievable, really. At the end of the day, was it only Gary in this equation? And my response is no, it's not. Do Starchitects actually destroy skylines? No. No, I mean, they're a factor in it, but it's really the client that picked the final design to begin with. I mean, nobody likes change, right? Perhaps both the client and the architect can learn from other criticisms as well, avoiding gentrification of areas. Understanding and listening to the existing community there is super important, but there's always going to be this love for classic architecture, right? People love it. They love it if a client comes up to you and says, I want a new, modern building, maybe with contemporary forms, blah, blah, blah. You aren't going to be looking at ancient Roman architecture. It's just, you aren't gonna do it. You're gonna do what the client wants. So I hope this video gives you kind of something else to look at and a new kind of perspective, just because I do think that they get a bad rep. Criticism in any form is good and it makes you grow as a designer and an architect. Please let me know what you guys think, and if I missed a Starchitect, maybe Norman Foster, Leapskin, not sure. Yeah, if you guys consider anyone else a Starchitect, please let me know and let me know your opinion on it. I would love to hear from you guys. That is it for today's video. I will see you guys next time. Love you guys.